Hi, this is Shane Starr, and today I'm taking a little bit of a different take on what was supposed to be a video comparing MBTI to Socionics. Now, I've done this in different ways several times over the history of my little channel here, and I'm trying to get to the underlying heart of the issue and what's really going on in terms of comparing and contrasting different systems and trying to gain something approaching what we would call truth in them. And here are my thoughts. First and foremost, this has been my central struggle ever since starting typology was, how could I be this type with these guys, but I'm this other type in these other circles? How does that work? How can one group of people see me as one way and another group of people see me as something completely different? And then my friends and family, yet again, see me as something different from the other two. So that's an issue. And like usual, I went to real life to find the answers. And in short, I think the answer is that different people are going to see us differently. Look at countries, for instance. Think of my country, the United States. What is someone's objective opinion, even trying our best to take emotions out of it? If you ask someone from England or France or someone from Germany, you're going to get different answers even among residents from there. And then you go to people of North Korea versus people from South Korea. They're going to have different ideas about what the U.S. is. You ask Israel and maybe Iran, you're going to get very different ideas about who the United States is and who it represents, and so it shouldn't come as a surprise to me or anyone else when different groups of people are going to fit us into different categories from one another, because that's just the nature of humanity. Another point is that the systems are different. I've seen plenty of people here, some of whom are smarter and more well-read than I am. However, I still disagree with them. I will say MBTI and Socionics are different. It's possible to be the same type in both systems, but I think it's more likely than not that you are not. The only exceptions to this would be those people, ENFPs and ENTPs, NE leads. I think they with confidence can say that they are the same in both systems. Everyone else I have unsolvable problems with rendering one type the same as its counterpart in the other system. And there's just enough overlap for it to be confusing. If there was more overlap, we could squeeze more people in and say, yeah, you're basically the same type across the board. And if there was less overlap, it'd be more clear that the systems are different. But the truth is, there's a Venn diagram. It would be just enough overlap to be confusing. So given these as a premise, whether you go this far with me along this little journey is up to you to decide. But our options are to just pick one system and ditch the other ones. I'm a Leo, first day of Leo, so almost on the cusp of Cancer and Leo. And this is the first time I've mentioned that in years. Why? Because even though I know where I place on that system, it means virtually nothing to me. I don't follow it. I don't subscribe to it. It's irrelevant to me. So I don't really go there. I don't really do astrology. I'm not waving a sign saying they're wrong or false, even though, I'm more inclined to think that way. I don't find it interesting. Okay, so perhaps we can do that with just take away all the sub MBTI systems and schools of thought that we find disagreeable or uninteresting, and then that'll at least clear the air a little bit. Um, we could just admit that we're different types in different systems, and I've said in another video how that is troubling to me. It's like having two names, and in one group you go by one name, in another group you go by another name, and that doesn't sound good to me. This whole thing comes from a fixation on my part of wanting to be the same. Hey, there's a bug. That it comes from wanting to be the same across the board, and I can either give in to the lie and just claim that, like so many other people I see around doing, and I just can't partake. So be a different type in every system, I guess, if push comes to shove, yes, but I've already expressed my discomfort with that solution. I've thought about this. Take an average of your types. Like, these people call me this type, these people say I'm that, these MBTI people say I'm this. If we, use a whole different, try to centralize it and say, okay, well, I'm probably somewhere in the middle of all of these, since all of these people see a couple of similar things. That's one way to do it, and that's, to me, ultimately another way of just saying you're the same type across the board. So I think things are a little more complicated than that, but I don't think that's the worst solution. Another solution would be to just say these very problems lead one to quit typology altogether. And I have a problem with that solution too. I mean, that's like saying because there's competing religions to disbelieve in God altogether. And I know that's what some of you out there do. Not me. I think, maybe I believe in one truth, but I think there's truth in different interpretations of the truth, and maybe some are more ultimately truer than others, and we'll never know, or maybe we'll find out someday after our time on this planet comes to an end. But I think that quitting it altogether isn't really an option, because it's fun, and for those of us invested in it, we like it. So why quit something you enjoy? I think the first thing that we have to admit, though, is that typology, in its present form at least, is not a science. And people like me should quit trying to treat it as if it is. I'm looking for 2 + 2 = 4 certainty, and you're just not going to get that with human beings. Take your best type description that you can find online, the thing that you think matches you the most, and if you are diligent with attention to detail and honest, you're going to find something in that description that doesn't quite resonate. You'll be like, yeah, I'm pretty much this type except for this part that doesn't quite fit. And maybe it doesn't have to fit. Maybe I need to quit being such a uptight perfectionist typology Karen and just be like, you know what, this is close enough, it's all right. Something that Jesus always said to the scribes and Pharisees was that, like about the Sabbath, for instance, and they were angry at him for healing people on the Sabbath, and he had to remind them, Sabbath was made for humans, not humans for the Sabbath. In the same way, typology is made for us, not us for it. And we should remember that when we're trying to fit ourselves or other people into a specific type. I think another angle to this is that we need to have a clear idea of what we're trying to get out of typology. If we're just trying to look cool and embody a type, be an INFJ. I mean, it's the rarest type, but paradoxically speaking, there's the most of you out there. Just be an INFJ and just say, yeah, man, I'm the rarest type. I'm cool. Look at me. And I've seen so many descriptions and so many ways to fit a variety of different personality traits into that type, that you could be virtually anyone or anything and qualify as an INFJ. If you're being intellectually honest, you know it's true. You could take anyone and turn them into an INFJ. Well, they seem too extroverted. Yeah, but that second slot FE, it shows you can be socially extroverted and be an INFJ. Yeah, but they're really smart. Well, yeah, that third slot TI, that makes them smart. They're well read and stuff. It's like no matter what you say, they can turn themselves or people who they want to into an INFJ. So if your whole goal is to look cool in typology circles, just go with that. You're already past the whole denial thing. So yeah. If you're trying to just embody a different type and flex to be that type, choose a type and don't change it and just go with it. Even cosplayers like that are better off than people like me who do their best to try to figure it out, and then they come to a new understanding and have to change their type. I mean, that makes people like me the clown. People who just stubbornly hold fast to a type no matter what kind of new evidence comes in or any truth to the contrary, those are the happiest people. And ironically, no one even challenges their types. They're perhaps the best off out of all of us. But the main thing, back to my point, is if self-improvement, like for me, is the best purpose of your typing, because sure, we all want to know ourselves, but most of all for me, I want to be able to improve things I'm weak in. I want to be able to, fill in the gaps, take what I'm good at, solidify it, take what I'm awful at, avoid that, and the things that I'm okay on but I need some work on, those are the things I really want to aim at. I've said about this in videos about MBTI. That's where your third function and fourth function come in. For Socionics, that's where your super id comes in big time. And I think it's arguable to a lesser extent your role functions, your role function in that super ego slot, not the vulnerable. You're going against all fate if you try to improve that one, but the role function has some potential there. Next, I would say I would say when you focus on what you're struggling with and then you look for the solution according to that type, you find what solution is benefited you the most. I think Michael Pierce, in one of his old videos, he said, try on a type, try to use the things to actualize that type in its highest form, and whatever one works the best, that's probably your type. I've had help on this with going between Enneagram 1, which I self-type as, and Enneagram 3, which I've been typed as by others. And what I do is I look at what are the things that tips for improvement. What are the things to tell someone who's stuck in a spot in either of those Enneagrams. And, when I try on the ones for 3, it really doesn't do anything for me. I look at it and I think, well, I don't seem to have that problem. No one tells me I have that problem. But when it comes to ones, those problems make me cringe, but people say, yeah, you do have a problem with, being overly perfectionistic. Yes, you are demanding. I'm like, I'm demanding of myself, but not others. It's like, yes, you are demanding of others. You just don't see it. It's like, wow, that's where it really hits home. So let's say I'm full of it and I really am a different Enneagram number. That advice still helped me along my way. And therefore it's good. The truth is what works well. In that I'm a real pragmatist. The truth is what works well. And if learning to be less hard on myself and others is what works and that goes with one, then why not just go into that and say, okay, you know, I've arrived. So you find the struggle and the solution that most resonates with your types you're considering, and go with that one. I think that's a good idea. Now, as far as competition between systems goes, I would find your best, most common circle and operate from there, and just go out on the fringes here and there. You know, if I'm in a conversation with people who are really into astrology, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm a Leo, you know. I kind of have as much Cancer traits as Leo traits, and that would make sense because I'm right in the middle. Okay, yeah, cool, we're good. Okay, but I'm not interested in it, as I've already said, and so I'm not really gonna go there unless I'm forced. Same thing in typology. You know, if someone asks me, what type are you in, you know, cognitive personality theory, you know, it's going to be a different type than any of the other ones. And if we're in that realm, okay, I'll go ahead and go there, but I'm going to stay out of it otherwise. When it comes to Socionics and MBTI, it seems like most of the people who interact with me are more into MBTI than they are Socionics. And because of that, I think I should speak in that language more often. That doesn't mean I have to throw Socionics away, but I think I would more comfortably identify with traits and others in that system, just for the simple reason of that's the circles I operate in mostly. Not even by choice, it's just by, you know, it's like if you're in California, in the United States, Southern California, you're going to operate with different slang terms and languages, whether you like it especially or not. It's going to be different than if you live in Texas or live on the East Coast or live in another country for that matter. Think of people who speak Spanish. You know, the same word in Mexico means something entirely different in Argentina, which again means something entirely different in Spain. They're all Spanish. We're all Jungian typology, you know, outsourced, but we have our own language and our different understandings, and whatever one you live in, operate mostly in that one. Last but not least, I would say, you know, this gives me to my final point, and that is, what should I focus on moving forward in the future of my channel? If you've listened this far, I'm sure you're one of the few, but I would like to try to get some interviews going. I've been a guest on other people's channels quite often. I'd like to have some guests of my own. If anyone would like to get on my channel and talk about their typology journey, I'd love to have you on. Also, you know, any kind of life stories typology based, in how I'm interested in the specific subset of how typology has either influenced, or how your understanding of typology has been influenced by your experiences in real life. I think there's enough how-to videos, and I think there's enough description videos out there where I think it's a disservice to just stack my own thoughts on top of others who have addressed the same thing all the time. I want to focus my channel on self-improvement. That does mean being religious. I'll bring religion into it sometimes, as I have. But my next turn, I really want to talk about life experiences. You know, how did this experience, whether it's good or bad at work, relate to your understanding of your type and the people's types around you, or in a relationship, or in going from, you know, being a static mindset to growth mindset in your life, or anything like that. From this point forward, I'm going to try to be shorter on my videos, but be more in depth with my comments. After all, I'm more comfortable writing or using texts than I am speaking and talking. So we're looking to that. And last but not least, if you have any of your own ideas for anything you'd like to see me address on my channel, I'm all ears. Okay? That's it for now. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.